Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Oscast. The Mental Health Show with Mark Aiston.
Well-being, mental health, I love talking about this stuff. And it's so important, particularly at the moment. Aaron Cartwright is a local guy, and I reached out to Aaron a couple of days ago and asked him if he'd come onto the program. And I'm not sure whether most people know, but I do these interviews, then I put them up onto my podcast, which is called The Mental Health Show. It's very cleverly named, actually, The Mental Health Show. So I do that as well. So I just like to share these out as much as I can because, you know, I enjoy them. I hope my guests enjoy them. But more importantly, I hope you get a lot out of these because these are discussions with people who are doing great things. And I'm sure Aaron is one of those. Aaron, welcome along. How are you doing?
Yes, good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, mate. I didn't realise, I'm not sure why, for some reason or other, I thought you were for interstate. Have you lived here all your life?
I have, yeah. I was a little bit confused when you said Adelaide time. I thought, all right, maybe you're in a different state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're down at Alberton, but you're a Crows man.
I'm a Crows man. I'm a confused boy. I'm very confused. I'm in the... But when I walk around the streets, I make sure I don't tell anyone that around Alberton.
No, well, it would be very dangerous, Aaron. No doubt about that. Have you seen Michelangelo Rucci, who of course is a Port man? Have you seen him, you know, sort of sniggering around the Port Adelaide area, you know, late at night, perhaps?
I haven't yet. No, I'll keep an eye out though. I'll keep an eye out.
Mate, first and foremost, so what school did you go to here locally?
I went to Henley High.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a very significant school in terms of sport,
AFL,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you play sport?
I did. I played. I still play AFL, locally, St Ramblers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved it. It's always been my passion. So I love sports. Anything sports, anything competitive, I just love doing.
Is that right? Isn't that interesting? Did you get that from mum and dad, or one of the two?
Oh, you know what? My dad's not that competitive. My mum is probably the most competitive. She's a crazy Port lady, so loves Port power and very competitive. So I probably got it from her.
Probably got it from her. So how old are you, Aaron?
I'm 29.
29, and so from what I gather, just in our early discussion here, like, are you fairly? I mean, fitness is an important thing for you physically. We'll talk physically first.
Yeah. Well, basically, I had a gym. I was a PT, so I definitely think that's a big thing. You know, physical fitness. That's key.
Yeah. How have you found that personally during COVID?
The fitness side of things. It's a big thing. To be honest, I'm not like. I used to be a lot more fit and I used to take it more serious, which is hence why I was a PT and I owned a gym. But I do it now more for mental health, more for feeling good, feeling grounded, connected, and just feeling all around energetic. So it's been key definitely through the whole COVID.
Absolutely. And even though we're not able to go to a gym at this stage, and it doesn't look as though that will be occurring in the next couple of weeks at least. And I go to Next Gen. I just started I've been going to Next Gen for 15 years, but I started to go up into the gym about 3 months before COVID, and then of course COVID hit, so I've got a VersaClimber at home that I use, but it's but it's outside, so it's very cold, so it's difficult. So I'm just in the process now of, instead of driving my dog around, my beautiful dog Jack, around to the park, I'm going to make the effort to start walking, because I have put on a little bit of weight, 2 or 3 kilos. It's not a lot, but you can feel it. And
you can.
And I guess also, getting back to your other point about mental health, you know, which we'll have a good discussion about, but I just feel as though it's you know, apart from everything else I'm doing to try and keep my mental health in check, I just feel as though that is such an important part of it. You would agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
So tell me specifically what you do. So, Aaron Cartwright Education. Tell our listeners exactly what you do.
Yeah, so basically I run programs and I do one-on-ones. I'll tell you about my history just so it would make more sense.
Yeah.
Basically, growing up, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of social anxiety, a lot of I couldn't, doing this kind of stuff would have freaked me out. I couldn't be in a room with more than 2 people.
Wow.
I would avoid people. I was a very nervous kind of kid. Sometimes I hit it well, but yeah, I was a very anxious kid and I didn't understand why. And obviously, especially with anxiety, you can get depressed too. So I was very depressed. I'd go in and out of depression. Sometimes I'll be fine growing up, then other times I'll be really low. And I think from that, I used to think, well, what's going on? Like, why am I like? I used to really question why I was like this, and I think that's where it all started from. Yeah, where I started questioning why am I so different? I feel like at the time, I felt like I was very different to others. Now I know that a lot of kids go through it, but at the time I thought, wow, like, am I the only one that's like severely like this? Like I didn't, and it really gave me an interest in anxiety, depression, anything to do with emotions, anything to do with your mental health was really a passion of mine growing up. So now I've made it into my thing where, I've done a lot of personal development. I've done a lot of, I've done therapy. I've done pretty much everything you can think of, and I've found what works and what doesn't work. And I now teach my clients how I overcome things, what I've done, what tools that work for me, and I guide them through that so they can have more control, be more empowered in their own life where, they've got the tools whenever they want them.
Yeah, and they're more in control. I want to talk more about that, but before we do, I want to go back. So, and if you're comfortable, I hope you.
Yeah, go for it. I am. I'm open. I'm an open book. Go for it.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about your anxiety. I suffered enormous anxiety when I was young, yet at the same time, particularly when I got a bit older, from about 14, I tended to be the life of the party, which was ridiculous because I was still very unconfident. What did your anxiety look like? Paint a picture.
Okay, well, it was different throughout different stages of my life, but if we're talking very young, before teenage years, it was more just I didn't know what it was. Obviously, I was just so young, I didn't even know what anxiety meant. I never even heard of it. So looking back on it, I did have anxiety, and that looked like just being very worry. I was like my dad used to always say, "You're a worrier. You just worry. You worry. You worry." So I used to worry about things. Worry about my family fighting. I used to think ahead, worst case scenarios when I was very young. I used to overthink things, and I used to really just overthink things. And obviously, I couldn't control my emotions because I would get so sick of being so stuck. I would just blow up sometimes. But then more, teenage years, I started drinking, smoking weed, doing stupid stuff, trying to be cool, but also trying to cover up the anxiety.
Absolutely,
Yeah, it was more of a cover up, to be honest, just so I could go to a party and actually socialize without freaking out, But the same thing, I would sometimes be the life of the party as well, even though I was anxious, which is, I think, another thing. It was just a cover up of like, okay, I'm anxious. I need to be loved here. Like, I want people to like me. And I'd just like put on act. Yeah. But then I'd get home and go, oh God, thank God I'm home. And just like, now I can just be myself now.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point, and I can relate, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to all of what you said. I think one of the difficulties of all of that, and one of the tiring things, certainly one of the things that was extremely tiring for me. I mean, I worked at Channel 10 as a sports presenter for 20 years, and prior to that I was on the ABC for 15. And all the way through, and I did breakfast radio at Mix and 5AA, all the way through all of that career, I had a mask bolted on when I was working, and after a while, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, after a while it gets so tiring.
It does. Yep.
Do you relate to that?
Absolutely. So it's because a lot of people with anxiety, we don't know, we never got told or taught how to deal with our emotions, especially when we're young. And it's not a blame game of our parents or their parents. It's just that it's just like a generation thing where if you've got parents where they don't know how to deal with emotions, normally the kids don't know how to deal with emotions. And the best way we can do that, we just learn just to mask it, just to cover up, all right, suck it up, and just pretend it's not there. And when we do that, we're really splitting ourselves into two. We're really deep inside. We know we're not being authentic, but we don't know any other way to do it. Yeah. So it's not our fault. Just we know deep down we're being inauthentic. But over time, what can happen is we can wear ourselves down, and we burn out. We can have identity crises. We can have panic attacks. We can have all this stuff because you can't, whatever you suppress eventually gets expressed. You can't keep holding it in.
Absolutely. It eventually comes to the surface, doesn't it?
Eventually. It's a matter of time. You cannot run from it.
Aaron, do you mind me asking, this is even more of a personal question, but what was your relationship like with girl? I mean, this is a tough question these days because, I mean, you might be gay. I don't know. So it's unfair that I ask this. So maybe the best way for me to ask, and I'm being quite serious there, but maybe the best part is, you know, if you were attracted to someone when you were young, did you have the confidence to approach them, or was that all part of it and you just did not have the confidence at all?
No, yeah. So, girls were a big problem for me. I was way too anxious. I was too. I didn't. If I was okay at talking to girls and being their friend.
Absolutely.
You know, I was that guy that, you know, I was cool with girls, but I couldn't make moves on them. I couldn't. I couldn't. You know,
go to the next level.
I couldn't take the next level. If I wanted to, if I'd think about kissing a girl and I couldn't do it, I couldn't make that move because I was so fearful of them rejecting me. I was so anxious of what they would think of me. Yeah. You know,
and the rejection, the word rejection you just mentioned then, I think is a really big part of that. Hey.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so many fears, especially with anxiety. But the fear of rejection, a lot of anxiety comes from not feeling good enough. You know, because there's fears of maybe being abandoned when you're young. Because a lot of people have abandonment issues.
They do.
So even if you don't have big wounds or issues from childhood, even like a lot of kids get what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. Get
what's the word?
Anxiety from separation anxiety.
Oh yeah, anxiety. Of course, separate. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
and that comes from very, very young. So, geez, I forgot your question now. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, no, totally. No, that's fine. But you're right. A lot of that anxiety, as you say, comes from different areas, and one of them is separation. The other one, as you mentioned earlier, and you were spot on, is abandonment as well. I mean, that's obviously another part. So as part of that, and look, you know what? I can relate 100% to what you're saying, 100%. And because, you know, I always remember, you know, and I could name them, but I always remember the 2 or 3 guys at school who used to have girlfriends from the age of about 12, 13, and I'm thinking, they're so cool. How are they going out? And you know what? Deep down inside, they might have been a bit self-conscious, but, you know, but basically, I think they had the view, well, you know, if I'm going to ask you out and you say no, it's your loss. But see, we never thought that. We thought, oh my God, it's my loss. How embarrassing. This is awful. I can never do this again.
Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. So do you just get the feeling that there was something that might have happened to you when you were young that caused this, or?
Well, the funny thing is this, and I think a lot of people might be able to relate to this, because I didn't have any, I call it micro traumas and macro traumas. Obviously, you know, with anxiety and abandonment issues and all that kind of stuff, it's easy to see someone who maybe has had sexual abuse, maybe physical abuse, maybe emotional abuse, all that kind of stuff, you know, or their mum or parents died when they were young. I didn't have any macro traumas where it was like, wow, that's obvious why you'd be anxious. So I was a bit confused because my parents are loving people, my family are loving, but what I've realised is, especially probably my mum, isn't emotionally regulated. Now, it's not her fault.
What does that mean? Just dumb that down for us.
Okay, so emotionally regulated. So when you're born and you've got your parents there, babies need to feel safe emotionally.
Yeah,
you might have shelter, you might have food, you might have everything, and everything's fine. But babies need to feel safe emotionally. Now, if you've got an anxious mum, the babies pick up on that. The babies then pick up on that and go, okay, something's a bit off.
Wow.
Something's a bit off here.
Yep.
Right? And it comes really, really early. Now, what I've realised is it's these little things that have been building up over my lifetime. When I was a baby, my mum has always been on antidepressants, and she's quite an anxious person, and I love her. Like she's so loving, but because of that, she means well. But because of that, emotionally, I probably didn't feel as safe as I wanted to. Now, this is very, very common, by the way, very common in a lot of families.
Absolutely, yep.
And this is not a blame mums, because mums feel guilty as it is already.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, but it's probably that. So,
so do you call that a macro or a micro?
I call these micro traumas where nothing's big, nothing obvious has happened in my life. I haven't had sexual abuse or anything like that. It's nothing like that.
Yep.
It's the micro ones where I used to be very anxious. So like even going to Target at Fulham, I used to go to Fulham Target there with mum, and I was about 5 years old. And I remember that she used to walk off from me, and I used to get so anxious that she was like 5 meters away because she would just walk off.
Wow.
And I'd have to like run after her. And I remember freaking out, like, don't leave me. So it's just, I had that kind of relationship where I never felt, a sense of calmness.
Yes,
and I've only just realized that in the last probably few years, where it's like, okay, this, because I used to wonder, am I repressing some big memory that it was so bad that I'm repressing it, which does happen in some people. Yeah. But I'm 100% sure nothing big has happened now, and I know what it is. And again, it's like a mirror image of what I went through, and it's really interesting and quite spooky that you should give that example, because my mother she suffered depression all of her life, and she was in and out of Glenside, in the 70s and early 80s. And we were, I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that sort of age when that was going on. It was normal to us at home. I mean, it was just unfortunate. Dad had come home. Dad ran a gym in Hindley Street, and he'd come home, and Mum would be having what we used to call one of her foofy fits, where she was on the bed and she was really upset and probably pissed. I mean, she was she as a result of that, and she was on Valium, so she was combining the alcohol, so it didn't take her much to get pissed anyway, really. And then off we'd take her to Glenside, and I mean, it wasn't a funny thing for us, but it was just normal. But getting back to the point that you made about when you were young, the really interesting thing is that when I was born in 58, Mum was quite unwell then. Now, as a child, between the ages of 0 and 3 or 4, you don't remember anything. But now that you say this, Aaron, I'm thinking to myself, maybe that was something that I went through similarly. But of course, you don't understand and feel it at the time. And the other really interesting thing, and you'll find this interesting, I think, as well. That issue of your mother just wandering off 2 or 3 meters and you feeling this real sort of petrified sort of, feeling of where you're going. I can remember quite vividly, I reckon I was about 6, and my father was running a hotel called the Havana on Glen Osmond Road, and that's probably relevant to the story. But anyway, he was running the Havana, and he was... he was coaching, because Dad was a fitness coach. He was coaching a guy called David, and he had to go up and see him, and he took me, and so I stayed. But would you believe, him and David left me there with David's wife, I think, from memory, and went off somewhere, and just sort of said, I'll be back, everything's okay. And I was horrified. I was 5 or 6. I was absolutely horrified. So I guess the point I'm making is what you have just said then really rings true to me. It really rings true to me. And that abandonment obviously can manifest itself in so many ways. Yeah. That's fascinating. Well, you're right. So, you're a 5-year-old boy, and everything secure has just left you, and you're left to your own devices.
Absolutely.
And that is whether you like it or not, that's a trauma, right? That is an absolute trauma. I think people think traumas have to be these big things, but these little micro traumas add up, and they can affect all areas of our life growing up, and it's all unconscious.
And just relating to, and again, I'm sure people will relate to this, but just relating to, rejection. I can remember, and I'll just tell this briefly, but I can remember I was about 15 and there was a girl at school who did like me, and she invited me over to her mother's place. She lived at St. Peter's. So I went over, and of course I had 2 or 3 beers before I went because I was so nervous. And so, I was horrified. It was just horrible. Like I wasn't able to relax. And at the end of the night, I can remember, and I just went there and we just played and did a few things. At the end of the night, I went to give her a kiss, and she sort of moved her face away and said, "No, Mark, no." When I got into the cab, look, I can say this, but I was almost suicidal.
Yep.
I was absolutely gutted. Now, that is an unusual response. I mean, okay, you might be a bit disappointed or a bit pissed off, or you might feel a bit flat, but to actually, and I can remember vividly, Aaron, getting into the cab and thinking my whole world has just collapsed. Yeah. I mean, that is unusual, and that has to have come from somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah. So like that, what happened there, that didn't start there. It would have been an accumulation of fears and fear of rejections and all this stuff, and then
100%.
And then you've already got this fear. You're already feeling like a failure. You're already feeling not good enough. You're already feeling like you're not worthy of love. You're already feeling like you're not enough, and then you finally put yourself out there and you get rejected.
Absolutely.
Bang.
Yeah.
You go straight back into story.
You've explained that magnificently. That totally makes sense. Okay. So in a general sense, and that's a great description, a very open and honest description of you. That's wonderful. And I think a lot of people will relate to that. So what happens next in terms of starting the business and thinking about how to help people? How did that, and I know it evolved as a result of what you went through, but how did it actually get from one point to another?
Well, to be honest, I started being a PT about 6 years ago. So I believe that everything's on the way. I don't think anything's in the way. When you look back at things, you go, okay, wow, that makes sense why that happened. So I got into the fitness industry, obviously, because, growing up, I did a bit of boxing, and that really helped my anxiety. That really helped me lift my spirits and get a bit of confidence. And I was like, wow, that's the secret, right? And I totally think that is still, like, that's a big part of it. You have to look after your physical health, okay? Yeah. And I got into being a PT, and I loved it. But what I realized is I started realizing that people were coming to me with, very good-looking girls would come to me, and they would train, they would eat really well, but something still wasn't right on them. They still felt ugly. They still felt stressed out. They still felt all this stuff. I'm like, okay, wow. Well, I want to help people feel better. So this is not, something's going on. And then I started realizing in myself, I still got those anxious feelings. It was a lot better, but they were still there. Things were still there. They were simmering under the surface still. I just had a bit of a better control of it, but I knew there was something missing. And then I started realizing people started coming to me, and they were paying me to be a PT, but really, I was really good at talking to them. I was very open with people and very good at talking to them. And I think
you were being a mentor.
I was being a mentor, and I started realizing that I really love this. I think people need a guide. They need something a little bit more. There's something a bit deeper.
100%.
Anyways, I got into a relationship, and it was probably my third relationship in my life. I was about 25. And I was pretty confident going into it. I was at a gym. I had a lot of girls around me. I just got into this relationship. I was single for a while, and I'm getting excited to be in this relationship. And then I got in this relationship, and I realized that all my insecurities come back. All my anxiety started to come back. Everything started getting triggered.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm loving it.
Yeah, so I thought I was fine because, I'm living the dream. I'm doing really well. But then I get into this relationship, and all my triggers from the past, all my things that I thought were gone blew up in my face, and I thought, wow, I am not healed. There's something going on. So I thought, what do you do when you do that? I thought, I'll go see a therapist. I need help. Like, there's something going on here. And obviously went to a therapist. And what I found with therapy, which is great, by the way, like I do believe therapy is great.
Yeah, I can recommend it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the therapists are great support. They're great to talk to, great to open up. But I found that when I left the therapist's office, the triggers would come back again. I'll go, oh God, look, the anxiety's still here. I'm still getting triggered. And then I'll start sweating and I'll be like, I need to book in another session. And I started really relying on the therapist to feel good in the moment, but I didn't have any tools outside the office. I didn't have anything. I couldn't see any long-term goals. So I started looking around for other mentors who are a bit outside the box, who know human behavior better than anyone in the world, because I wanted to start learning from the best. I really wanted to tackle this. I really wanted to understand psychology. I wanted to understand, human behavior and how we work. So I sought out mentors. There's one mentor here in Adelaide, Mojo Master, and he took me under his wing, and I did all his courses. I learned from him, and he really started to show me how to shift, the cognitive stuff, the beliefs about myself, how to change, how to balance out your perceptions, how to do all these cool things that I've never heard of in my life, and they're pretty unknown. And I started really changing my anxieties.
Wow.
And then I got into a relationship, and I was like, wow. And I was in that relationship for 3.5 years. And it was the best relationship I ever had. And the only reason really we're not together now is because we're grown separate ways, but it wasn't really because of
anything negative or anything.
Yeah, and I can thank that to the tools that I got.
So just a quickie here. So when you started seeing the mentor, for example, how long after that, Aaron, did you feel as though things were starting to get back on track?
It was very, very soon. It was probably like a month after that.
And if you don't mind me asking, were you on medication at the time?
No. I've never been on medication. Okay. When I was really young, the doctor told me I was depressed and like kind of advised me to maybe go see a psychologist or psychiatrist on something. I never liked the idea, and I'm not saying it's not. I honestly think medication is great for people who are really, really suffering. Like it's a great solution, definitely short term. But for some reason, I didn't want to do it. I took. I was smoking weed. I was doing some drugs, that was my medication.
Which, of course, as you now know, was only making your anxiety worse.
Which is making it worse.
100%. I mean, it's the same with alcohol. I mean, I've been. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but I went to rehab 13 months ago, and I haven't had a drink. I haven't had a joint. I haven't had a line of coke for 13 months. I mean, the coke, the alcohol, and the dope got me through the 3 previous years. I say it got me through. It didn't. It completely stuffed me up. But when you're in it, you feel as though it's getting you through. But anyway, keep going. I'm interested.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a short term. It's a short term solution.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
But and then so I started realizing that this stuff needs to get out there. If I can get this out there to people, like I suffered most of my life with debilitating anxiety, and then I found these tools. I found this mentor who, was thinking outside the box and knows human behavior inside and out. I thought, I'm going to study as much as I can and learn everything I can every single day about this, so I can help others. Not, for selfish reasons too, so I can help myself and then help others.
Yeah.
And then just started taking on clients about 2.5 years ago, just because I loved it. I had a gym at the same time, and then that just started growing. I started doing one-on-ones with people and started getting really good results with their mental health. Probably about 2 months ago, I sold the gym and went full time into this because I just can't think of anything else I want to do than help people with their mental health and just continue to work on mine. That's a
wonderful thing.
I just don't know what else I would love to do. It's just I've found my thing.
Well, and you also made a really good point there. And, part of the reason that I went very public with my mental health and addiction issues was, and not all of my friends thought it was a good idea. And I guess to a small degree, not that I particularly am looking for full-time work now. I'm still working on building my media training business up. But there would still be people who, now that they know my background, would think, no, I probably won't risk it with Mark. They wouldn't say that publicly. And I completely understand that. But one of the things that, and I'm not doing much of it now because obviously of COVID, but if I do a talk about mental health, and part of that talk is about where I was and what I did about it and where I am now and where I want to be, I walk away from that feeling really empowered. So I get the issue of it being selfish. It's really good for you too, but more so with you, it's a wonderful path to take because, mate, you're never ever going to be short of customers. You're never going to be, sadly.
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
And the more people you can help, and you make a really good point too about the mentoring. I mean, sometimes when I do my media training, for example, let's say you want to do some media training with me. So what I do is I turn up wherever it is, wherever your business is or at home or whatever, set up a camera, and I'd teach you how to handle a media interview, whether it be TV, radio, print, online, whatever it might be. So, I'd talk to you a little bit about deportment, where to stand, how to look. Before we get on camera, we'd talk about the topic we're going to talk about. We'd prepare. I'd get you to, start thinking about the message, all of that sort of stuff. So in a general sense, that's what I do. But I find, and probably not as much as you, but I find there's a certain percentage of my clients who in the end will say something like, I just saw myself on camera, I'm really not happy with that. And in the end, you almost become a psychologist to them because, I'm not going to say, well, you're pretty ugly, there's nothing much you can do about it. What I say is I say, you know what? Everyone looks different. Don't worry about it. Think more clearly about what you're going to say. You are what you are. Be proud of it. So in the end, I end up, as I say, not to your degree, but in the end, I'm helping them I'm helping them in their heads.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so many people want that. So as part of your business, what percentage of it, well, I guess now that you've gone into it full time, it's sort of 100%, but when you were doing the PT and the gym work and stuff like that, in the early days, when I say what percentage, just approximately, how many people were coming there who were coming there to get fit physically, but in the end you might have a chat to them about how they feel?
Well, I'd say I literally had a few of my clients saying that I was their therapist as a joke, but it was kind of serious. So
yeah, wow.
I'd say probably 80% were coming to me. 70 to 80% would be coming to me to feel better.
Wow.
To talk to me. Obviously we'd train and all that, but in between sets or in between boxing rounds, we'd have a chat.
Isn't that interesting?
What's going on? It was more of that, and I think that's why I probably grew a fair following with PT and members and stuff. It's because I wasn't just, I actually opened my gym as not just a gym, it was a mindset gym.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's a great idea. Yeah. Great idea.
Yeah, it's needed. And I guarantee in 5-10 years, they're going to be everywhere. Gyms will have, psychologists, they'll have mental health coaches there.
Absolutely.
It'll be at one point.
Cognitive therapy and all that sort of stuff. So if and again, paint a picture. So are you saying that you do one-on-one, but I mean, if a business or a company came to you and said, we'd like you to talk, you do groups as well? Is that how it works?
So what I do is I find that the people I work with need to want to do it. Otherwise, they'll shut off, and it's kind of like, So I work with people. I ask everyone, are you ready and committed to start healing? Are you ready and committed? Because if not, because some people, and it's not a bad thing if you're not, it's just some people aren't actually ready yet.
No, I understand,
They're not ready to face their ego. They're not ready to face those fears, and that's cool. It makes sense. So I do work with groups. I do one-on-ones. I pretty much do anything if anyone's committed, and I'm cool if they're committed to healing. I'm all in.
And again, paint a picture. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do some work with you. Is it one session? Is it any number of sessions? Is it a course? How does it work?
Yeah. So my main thing, which is it's starting to really grow now, is my program. I've got a online program called Mastering Your Emotions and Life. And so what you do is it's a drip fed content. So every month you get a new topic, and every month everything's designed to start to lower that anxiety, to start being more grounded, to start loving yourself more, to start being more connected. So every month is new topics. So number one, we do we balance out emotions in month one. Month two, we start healing your inner child. Month three, we go into all your fears and start to knock each one of them out. And every month is a new month to just keep getting deeper and deeper.
That's wonderful.
Until the point where you've got all these tools. Where the thing is, these tools that I teach people to be able to do this whenever they need.
Yes.
So I want people to be self-healers. I know when I get triggered of something, of course I'm human. We're all human. We're never going to get to a point where we never get triggered ever again, or we never get a little bit anxious or a little bit sad or depressed like that. And that's life. But the question is, how quick can you go from anxious to feeling grounded and safe again?
Yes.
How quick can you go from depressed to feeling okay again? Without bypassing it through food, drugs, alcohol, all that. That's the question, and that's what I like to teach people: is how quick can they go from the painful experience that they're going through to being okay with it and being okay.
And so that's online. So and we'll get some details on that in a second. That's online, but I take it you also do. I mean, obviously through COVID it's been a bit difficult, but I take it you also do face to face.
Yeah, I do face to face. A lot of my clients are like one-on-ones. They're throughout Australia, so I do Zoom calls and stuff, which is the same stuff. Yeah. It's all. Yeah, so one-on-ones and the program. That's what I do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So Aaron, how do you feel about what you're doing? I mean, when you put your head on the pillow at night, and you've done a couple of courses, and I'm not talking about how do you feel financially about it. I'm talking about how do you feel inside about it?
About me helping people?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
So for me, that it makes me so. Like the other day, I had a lady. She's 61. And she messaged me. I think she's in Queensland. She's 61 years old. She had debilitating anxiety, like health anxiety, where she freaks out about getting sick and all that. Yeah. And she's been doing therapies and she's done everything, medications, everything. You name it, she's done it for 30 years. And she come across my program and she thought, well, I'm willing to try anything. Like nothing's worked. And that was 5 weeks ago. And she messaged me last week and said, Aaron. It's on my Facebook page. Anyone can go see what she said to me. But she messaged me with this long thing saying, Aaron, I just want to thank you so much. Like, this is the first time in pretty much my whole life, but especially the last 30 years, where I sat on my front bench, my front porch, and I actually sat there without any anxiety, and I seen a bird for the first time.
Wow.
She said, I seen trees blowing in the wind. I seen the sunshine coming through the trees. She goes, I've never been able to do this because I've been so anxious and I've been so in my head and I've been so unsafe. I literally haven't seen a bird for 30 years. She's never noticed them. She said, I just want to thank you, for giving me these tools. I can't believe it. And the thing, what happens is when people start to learn this when they're a little bit older, especially, they think, why didn't anyone tell me this 30 years ago? And that's what happens a lot. But back to your question, that hearing stuff like that makes everything worth it, because a lot of people don't believe what I do. Some people, like anything you do, there's going to be haters and lovers.
Of course, of course.
But it makes it all worth it when you see that, and that makes me sleep so well. It's not funny.
Wow, that's sensational. That is sensational.
Yeah.
And you're right, you know, when you get wonderful testimonials like that are just out of the blue, you're not even asking for them, and they come out of the blue. I mean, obviously from a credibility point of view, they're wonderful, but yeah, from a personal satisfaction point of view, I think that's just a wonderful thing. That is a wonderful thing. So, Aaron, how do people get in contact with you, or what's the deal there?
The best thing, I'm pretty active on my Facebook. I've got heaps of Facebook. I do a Facebook Live every single day about this kind of stuff. So if you just look up Aaron Cartwright, Mindset Educator, okay. And from there you'll see the link to my programs and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's a bit of a long one, so yeah, I'll probably send it through and we can put it up or whatever. It's a bit long to say, but
that's okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So Aaron Cartwright, I didn't have any trouble finding you on Facebook, Aaron Cartwright, and I didn't realise you do a Facebook Live every day.
Pretty much every day. I'm doing lives every day, and people really love it. I'm getting messages every day saying, "Wow, thank you very much."
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.